Today's webinar is presented in cooperation with UniteRx. UniteRx has been an ATOM member since 2012, and they are focused exclusively on dermatology dispensing. So the UniteRx team has more than 40 years combined experience in healthcare. To introduce our presenters, Bill Pickron and Tony Eberhardt. Bill is the Senior Vice President of Business Development, and he has been in the dermatology field for 22 years, and he is experienced in pharmaceutical distribution, operation, wholesale, and trade. Tony is the Vice President of Marketing and Client Operations for UniteRx and has 13 years experience in the healthcare marketing field, starting with McKesson in specialty distribution and technology. She also is an experienced marketing consultant for healthcare systems, medical groups, and independent practices. After they do their presentation, they're going to have a question and answer for about 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, please type them out in the chat field, which is a little triangle on the bottom. It says chat. If you open it up, you can just ask a question. And following today's webinar, we encourage you to visit their website, UniteRx.com. Bill and Tony, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Ann. Certainly appreciate the both of you and the time that you put into helping us create this. Good morning, good afternoon, all fellow ATOM members. We are very appreciative to be with you for a few minutes here and share our offering, our solution. The UniteRx model, if you will, was actually born from dermatologists nationwide. Not too long ago, we heard from several dermatologists that it was becoming more and more difficult annually to actually be the physician, be the caretaker for these patients. What we would often hear from these dermatologists was that it seems like the insurance companies and the pharmacies are taking over, my role as physician. Much frustration was out there about, as you all can appreciate and probably experience today, in the field of the prescription benefits on that part of the patient continuum. So what we did was we took a look at this. We had several conversations again with dermatologists nationwide, and we said, what would be ideal for dermatologists? And at about the same time, you all may remember this, but the CVSs and the Walgreens out there, they were putting in these minute clinics, and they were promoting skincare, if you will, dermatology services, which really even fed, to our thoughts more of the fact that if a pharmacy can drop in a healthcare provider and claim to perform different healthcare services, why can't we do the opposite in the physician office? So after much labor of love, sources, energies, what have you, we came up with a model that basically is what we would coin as a micro pharmacy, if you will, within your independent practice. And what does this micro pharmacy look like? What does it consist of? It's quite simple. The dispensary, as we'll call it, the micro pharmacy, does contain, really on a much smaller level, the tools and services that a physician, that a patient would experience at his or her local pharmacy. So what we've been able to provide is a full pharmacy software that is connected then to a pharmacy network of payers. Now what that does is that then eliminates or alleviates a lot of the pharmacy plan, the formulary changes, the formulary challenges that are out there for these patients. So when the physician or the physician extender were to prescribe the medication, we can know through the software within real time, A, whether or not that medication is approved on the patient's plan, and B, if it's not approved, if it's rejected, it will give rejection codes as to why, and then we can work through that right there at the point of care. So as an example, a physician were to write for a clobetasol the pharmacy software would then pull up that prescription, just like at a retail pharmacy. The tech there at the point of care would run the patient's benefits against that insurance to see if it's approved or rejected. Again, very similar to a retail pharmacy. And then that visibility to the patient's benefit would be seen. And if that, in this case, if the clobetasol were approved, then the system would ask for the copay. The tech would fill the prescription with the patient, and the patient would be on their way. If it were not approved, if there was a rejection of sorts, then the system has a way of mitigating that through either a prior authorization program, if there are step edits, or if it's just a pure rejection, then the tech and the patient can go back to the physician quickly and say, hey, the clobetasol is not approved, but these medications are, and then start that adjudication again. So we have also, in addition to thinking of this as a micropharmacy, we have over the years evolved into what we call a prescription help desk. And what does that mean? So we like to think of this offering to the patients internally as not a pharmacy or really a dispensary, but as a prescription help desk, as one of the stops along the way to checking out that we feel every patient should go through. So at the prescription help desk, what it will do is it will gain the visibility to pharmacy benefits, and it will make the needed changes at the point of care, as I discussed a little bit ago. Now, whether or not the patient at that time chooses to have their medication filled with you on site, or wants to fill their prescription still at their local pharmacy, that is their choice, and they do have that choice. But at least now, you on the medical side are fully aware and visible to what that patient's benefit actually is at that time of dispensing. By doing this, by having this prescription help desk at the point of care there at your site, it also minimizes the phone calls and the faxes to and from the retail pharmacies, as I'm sure you all can appreciate on this call today. That's one of the biggest complaints I hear about a medical practice trying to manage the patient's pharmacy benefits is, we're just prescribing what we think is clinically appropriate for that patient, but we send them out the door not knowing whether or not that prescription is going to be filled. Right, either due to the patient not following up the pharmacy, or following up the pharmacy only to find out that, again, that prescription is not covered under their benefit, or there's some type of a prior auth or a challenge that has got to be met. So as you can appreciate, the more prescriptions that are viewed at the point of care through the prescription help desk, and then even more than that, the prescriptions that are actually filled at the point of care, you can imagine, appreciate the lack there, or the minimization, if you will, of the phone calls and faxes coming back into the practice, which does what? It only creates more busy work for your staff. And that's not why your staff were hired. Your staff were hired to help triage and be a part of that patient care. And in fact, there's a study out there that shows that a typical medical practice can spend upward near $30,000 to $40,000 a year in just the staff time of having to mitigate and manage those phone calls and faxes, if you will. And then the bottom line is that by being able to see the prescription written, be able to go through the system, make sure that their insurance company covers it, and then hopefully fill that prescription at the point of care, that you will increase patient satisfaction. You're going to be saving your patient time from having to just really go to the pharmacy, and I know everyone on the phone has been a consumer of that at one point or another. We get into our car, we drive to the pharmacy, we stand in line, only to be told that it's going to be 30 to 40 minutes before we pick up. So having it still at the point of care through the prescription help desk takes that. More importantly, it also jumpstarts compliance and adherence for that patient if you think about it. So you have an improved therapy adherence, because at least you know that by dispensing the medication at the point of care to the patient and having them walk out of the door, that A, that continuum is complete, right? You're not hoping that they go to the pharmacy and get the medication. And B, as a result of that, you're hoping, right? You're suggesting that that patient then would start their therapy right away. Okay, and as it says here, compliance with drug therapy is 60 to 70% better when medications are delivered at the point of care versus when patients must go to another location to fill the prescription. And then the other benefit to this is the decreased risk of medication errors, right? So at the point of care at this prescription help desk, you would only carry, if you will, you would only inventory those few medications that a dermatologist would typically write for. Okay, it's not a full-fledged pharmacy with hundreds or thousands of NDCs. So as a result of that, when a clobetasol comes in or a doxycycline comes in, there's a very high chance that that will be filled exact. So the bottom line result is stated here, that our clients who have added the prescription help desk through implementation of the in-office dispensary, as we talked about, have had a decrease in calls, in faxes from the pharmacies, from upset patients. They've reduced, and this is big right here, right? They've reduced time spent on prior authorizations by 80%. So not that the system's going to catch every prescription and every prior authorization out there. But by utilizing the system, we've seen a decrease of around 80% in prior authorizations because they've been caught at the point of care. And then, of course, with any new business, with any new investment, there is an added or there's a significant revenue stream added for the practice. And in fact, here's a quote by, here's an exact quote by a dermatologist. Quote, with UniteRx, I can ensure my patient walks out with the best medication choice for his medical coverage and be compensated for the time and effort it takes to manage the prior authorizations and formulary restrictions, end of quote. So what is needed? We often get asked, or I think the first thought that many may think is, gosh, when I think of pharmacy, I think of this very large building with rows and rows and rows of medications. That's certainly not the case here. With the prescription help desk, you can designate a small, secure space, preferably near the checkout, by where the checkout process takes place. And really what is needed is a small area that either has a locked door or locked cabinets for medications. We recommend a small refrigerator, of course, for those refrigerated items. There is some hardware. There are computers that are involved, as well as a printer, and then, of course, a telephone and other supplies, along with internet access. So we have a whiteboard illustration that's on our website, UniteRx.com, that we will absolutely send to you and is available to you, again, on our website to review. And it really gives just a nice high-level overview of the process from check-in to check-out. It gives you a better idea of how this program works. Yeah. So that being said, what I'd like to do is, now that we've talked about really the basics of a prescription help desk and what goes into it, the work doesn't start there. Once we implement this with your practice, we have ongoing support services directly from here. And I'd like to turn the time over to our Vice President of Marketing and Operations, Tony Eberhardt, to explain. Tony?
So as Bill shared, so we definitely have an amazing amount of support through implementation. And the implementation process, you can get started very easily, but obviously you want support after that. And that's another question we get from clients all the time. Okay, once I get this implemented, what are my questions? What do I do? We've got a team here with led by myself in client operations, We provide ongoing support to our in-office dispensaries. And what does that look like? Basically, we've got somebody here to answer phone calls and emails regularly. So if there's a question about, hey, how do you know, I need to get this drug, or I have a question about the system, we've got somebody readily available to answer those questions. But we're also really proactive. We're regularly looking at each of our clients to understand what they're ordering, what they're dispensing, and to help them really optimize their orders and the formularies, as well as just optimize their operations. So for example, there's a person on my team that he's out there at Go Live training the staff, but then also afterwards we'll follow up. And he can go, he goes on site, he observes. How are things going? What are the processes going on? And he actually is a very experienced pharmacy tech. He works not only in a retail environment, but also helped start an in-office dispensary for one of our clients before he worked for us. So he's got knowledge as a pharmacy tech from, soup to nuts on both sides of it. So he's very capable of going in and looking at the processes that are going on, look at the operations and saying, hey, here's how you can drive more efficiencies. So we also do quarterly business reviews so that we can look at your business and see, hey, how are refills going? How are things going, so that we can help you maximize the in-office dispensary, not only for the health of your practice, but for the health of your patients. So it definitely doesn't stop there. From the marketing side, we also offer you marketing materials so that you can drive awareness among your patients. That this in-office dispensary is there. And because a lot of times, one of the goals is all the providers should be sending all prescriptions through your prescription help desk. That's step one. But step two is helping your patients understand that this service is available and it's a benefit to them. Also helping them understand that, the copay here is going to be the exact copay as at the retail pharmacy, because that's the question that patients ask most often. I can get it here and it's so convenient that I must pay for it. And we provide marketing materials for you to answer and overcome those questions, drive awareness of your prescription health desk and the ability to get prescriptions on site, so that patients really feel confident that, wow, this is absolutely a service. It's not costing me any more money. It's just an added benefit. And I can tell you, when you think about, patients and retaining patients, this is a huge patient retainer, because again, they're not only, now comfortable with your office, your staff, your physicians, but you've now added this convenience. So if they say they move a little bit further away from your office and there's a dermatologist closer to their work or home, they're not going to be as tempted to switch, because that dermatologist likely doesn't offer the same service that you do in having the prescription filled on site. So it's these types of things that we offer you in terms of operational support, and then also marketing support. So we stay with you as partners every step of the way, so that you have ongoing support, and your prescription help desk, if you will, really has the opportunity to evolve and become as significant a piece of your practice and your patient support as you would like. So with that said, like Bill said, we're going to follow up with an email to you. This whiteboard video, unfortunately, when we play it, online, sometimes depending on your audio system, you can't hear it. But we do want to send it to you as a follow-up, because it's a great way, if you're excited about this concept and you want to learn more about it, or you want to share it with your physicians or the owners of your practice. This video is a great way to very simply show somebody what Bill explained to you. So we'll send that to you in a follow-up email. But we'd like to open it up for questions now. So we'll wait for some questions to come in. And you can also, here's Bill's email and contact information. If you have questions after the call, or anybody else in your practice does, please feel free to have them contact Bill. And this information will also be in the follow-up email.
Thank you,
So we'll
Tony.
wait for some questions to come in.
Tony, we do have some questions through the question bar. I don't know if you can see those. I can.
I'm looking at the chat bar and I don't see it. So if you can tell me what the questions are, that'd be great.
Yeah, the first one, wouldn't prior authorization still be needed for those certain drugs that require their PA regardless of where it's being filled?
So the question, in case anybody couldn't hear that, the question was, aren't prior authorizations needed for some drugs regardless of where it's filled? So in other words, this doesn't enable you to get around prior authorizations, but Bill can explain more.
The prior authorization is initiated and directed by the payer, right? by the patient's benefit plan. What we're saying here is that within the pharmacy system that we provide our practices, there is a prior authorization mechanism. In fact, it's called Cover My Meds. Most of us on the call are probably familiar with it. And Cover My Meds is, again, embedded into the software where, as opposed to sending that patient off with a written prescription or an e-prescription, only to be told at the retail pharmacy that it requires a prior authorization, and then we all know how long that can take, hours if not days at a time. That prior authorization can be captured and sent through the system within minutes, and in many cases, the approval process will come back within a few minutes, sometimes longer, with the answer from the insurance companies. And to be honest with you, what I've heard, and this is anecdotal, of course, but what I've heard nationwide is a great majority of those prior authorization submissions do come back approved, which is great news. So no, we're not going to get around the prior authorization process, but we can tackle it, we can mitigate it much quicker at the point of care than waiting for a retail pharmacy to do so. And then that's where the calls and the faxes and the angry patients come back.
One thing to add to this whole patient satisfaction piece, when I first came to UniteRx last year, and again, thinking about it from a marketing perspective and a consumer's perspective, one thing I know everybody on the call is painfully aware of this, but as a patient, when I go to my physician, for the most part, my insurance plan and my pharmacy benefits all come as a package to me. So when I present my insurance card to my doctor, as a consumer, I'm thinking, you have visibility, this gives you visibility to everything. You know what my coverage is. So on those occasions, as a consumer, when I go to the pharmacy and they said, oh yeah, we have this drug, it's gonna be $400. And I'm thinking, why did the doctor prescribe me a $400 drug? That's an amazing out-of-pocket cost. I'm not gonna deal with that. Right, so the blame goes back to the physician's office because the patient doesn't realize that you don't have visibility to those pharmacy benefits. So it's incorrect, but again, that's where it goes back to patient satisfaction. Just like when they go to the pharmacy and they recognize the pharmacy said, well, there's a prior auth. The patient's thinking, why didn't they take care of that at the office? And again, we all know why you weren't able to take care of it at the office because you didn't know it existed. The patient doesn't know that. So this not only increases patient satisfaction, but it takes away the risk that the patient is holding your office and your doctors and your practices accountable for something that you have no control over. With this, you now have control over it.
Okay, great. The next question, which is under the questions tab in the sidebar, is from Lisa. How do patients request refills for those RXs filled at our office?
Yeah, Lisa, great question. Thank you for asking. So it's quite simple. There are a few options that patients have. So when they do request the refill, and oh, by the way, the software will initiate refill lists. So ideally, the tech should be reaching out to those patients when it comes to refills. And when they do, it should sound something like, Mr. or Miss Patient, your refill is ready. You have a few options. You can either come back into the office and pick that up, or we can send it to your residence, much like the specialty pharmacies do today. Or if you'd like us to, we can transfer that to a nearby pharmacy if you wish. So always giving that patient options, which is by law, of course. Patients can certainly fill prescriptions where they choose. So those are the options given. Come back in the office, we can send it to you, or we can transfer that prescription out to a pharmacy nearby.
Okay, great. The next question, also posed by Lisa. Do insurance companies process the prescriptions as in-network pharmacy?
Yeah, Lisa, assuming same Lisa, another excellent question. Yeah, so the pharmacy network that we belong to is the nation's largest network of payers. I think we have over 5,000 plans, if I'm not mistaken. And as a result of being part of that network, the majority of the contracts are under the retail pharmacy network that are in network. There may be a few closed plans out there and a few one-offs, but for the most part, yes, our PSAO, our pharmacy network, is the same network that is used by chain drugstores and large pharmacies alike, and we are in retail network.
Okay, great. And the last question we have posted, again from Lisa, our questioner of the day. Is there a way to send the prescriptions to our in-office help desk from our EMR?
That's the trifecta, Lisa. And I think if you're, for whatever reason, if you're ever looking for a job in the future, call us. All excellent questions. Thank you. But all kidding aside, absolutely. So this pharmacy system, the one that we offer, like other retail pharmacy systems, will bridge between your EMR through SureScripts into the pharmacy network. So think about this. Provider and MA are in the room with patient, right? Provider makes choice. It's typically, my history has found, or my experience has found, that it's typically the MA then that would go into your EMR, would select the pharmacy of choice, prescription goes out the door. In this case, you would be, your dispensary, your help desk would be part of the national registrar of pharmacies. So you would go in and look for your own pharmacy, so to speak. You would then tap on that, send the prescription to yourself. The tech would quickly get that order within milliseconds. They would start to prepare that order while the provider and MA are concluding the visit with the patient. The patient then goes to check out at the front desk, turns around. The actual prescription should be ready at that point if all the pertinent information has been given to the tech. And then it's a matter of a signature, of a collection of copay, and they're out the door white bag.
Great questions, by the way. Any other questions?
Yeah, we could hang on for a minute and see if any other questions are posted.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we would like to remind our attendees to please visit the UniteRx.com website. Contact Bill or Tony if you have any further questions, and we will also follow up with an email later today. After the
question we get asked a lot is, what are the staffing requirements? Do we have to hire a pharmacist? I'm going to let Bill answer that, but that's a hot topic.
Yeah, we do. If we have just another minute or so, we'd like to answer that because that's one of the first questions that come up, right? When we think pharmacy, we think pharmacist. The physician dispensing model or the physician dispensing taxonomy is slightly different. The MD and or the DO within their scope have the right to dispense the medications at the point of care to their own patients. So provided that that patient is charted, is treated, is diagnosed, prescribed, they can be dispensed to as well. So as a result of that, the physician then plays the role of the pharmacist in charge. And what would be required at that point would be a full-time employee, preferably a certified pharmacy tech coming from that world who understands how to operate pharmacy, if you will. And then the next question I get is, well, how much does the pharmacy tech cost? And the pharmacy tech costs are right in line with an MA. So, you know, a window or, pardon me, a range of $15 to $20 an hour. So really very nominal cost to have a pharmacy tech in there based on the reimbursements that are seen. And then the other question that follows that, if I may, are, what types of medications am I able to obtain as practice? And it's really a very good question. And the answer is anything that is FDA approved. So we will set you up with our accounts with national wholesalers, very same wholesalers that supply and support the chains that are out there. So anything that's been FDA approved, branded, generic, topical, oral, isotretinoin, the OTCs, the sunscreens, the sunblocks, the shampoos, anything that you find in a pharmacy, either behind the pharmacy counter or on the OTC aisles, we can procure for you.
I'd like to add, because again, I was talking about the support we offer, so it's not, hey, great, here you are, plop it in, and we're gone. We look at ourselves as partners with you, the practice manager, with the physicians, with practice. And when Bill was talking about hiring a dispensing tech, one of the things that we do, because as a practice manager, that may make you say, oh gosh, I'm going to have to go through all these resumes and I'm going to have to screen people. And, that's just going to be a lot of extra work for me up front. And then what if that person doesn't work out? I have to go through the whole process again. And you guys are so busy. We actually will do the screening for you. So you place the ad on Indeed or wherever job sites that you guys use, but we actually can provide you, or we do provide you, a job description if you'd like to use one that we've developed. We will do the screening for you. So as you get resumes in, we'll call the people and we will do the initial screening, because even though somebody that is a certified farm tech, if they've come out of a retail environment, some of them have come into this side of dispensing and wonderfully. Others do not have the skill set that translates well into an in-office environment. We know what that skill set looks like. We know what that great in-office dispensing tech and prescription looks like. So we'll do the screening for you, so that way you and your physicians are only really seeing the top 3 to 5 candidates and then deciding, hey, who's the best fit for our practice in terms of our culture and the character and the values of our practice. But that initial screening that takes so much work that you guys really don't have time for, we will do that for you. And again, that's part of the service we offer. We don't, just so you know, as we're talking about these, the support that we offer, this is part of the package. We don't say, oh, and that's going to be X amount of dollars and that's going to be X amount of dollars. This is who we are. This is the service we offer. So we truly are partners in making sure that your in-office dispensary and your prescription desk does fit as seamlessly as possible into your practice and is a positive for everybody.
Tony and Bill, we have a couple more questions.
Great.
First one would be, in your experience, does doing this have a big impact on the physician's malpractice costs?
Yeah. Again, that question. The answer to that is no. So malpractice takes in consideration when working with physicians that they are the ones that actually initiate the prescription. They're the ones that make that choice, that put that choice, pen to paper on that. And as a result, the physician's malpractice has already been set to understand that. So no matter where the prescription has been filled, provided it's filled correctly, the responsibility is already going back to that MD or DO.
Okay. The next question is, since we are only open 4.5 days a week, we aren't as available as the pharmacy. Has access been a problem? And that's from Heather.
Great question again. Typically, holistically, no, it hasn't been. The majority, as we mentioned earlier, the majority of the prescriptions are administered to the patient at the point of care amongst the first fill, if you will. And then those refills are coordinated accordingly as we spoke about in the past. So if a tech does follow, or when they follow up with that patient on a refill, they can mention that time that if the patient wanted to come back into the practice, that we are open, Monday through Friday, X hours. Or again, that refill can be sent to the house for convenience, or the actual prescription can be transferred to the pharmacy. So if you think about it, the initial fill is given while the patient's there during the office hours.
Great. One more question from Heather. How are boards of pharmacy accepting these types of practice? And she's guessing that some states may not allow this. It varies by state.
Yeah, and I hate to sound like a parrot, but again, great question, and one that should be taken into consideration. So each state has their own requirements, if you will, around physician dispensing, and I'm happy to announce that the majority of the states in our union do widely accept physician dispensing. And of those states that do, the majority of them are under the auspice, if you will, of the state medical board, not the state pharmacy board. And the reason for that is, as I mentioned earlier, we are not claiming, nor are we a pharmacy, right? Our taxonomy is that of dispensing physician. So the majority of the physician dispensing rules fall under the state medical board. Now, that being said, what we will always state is that we are not a law firm, of course, and that before getting involved in this, that we challenge our prospective clients to reach out to their state board, to reach out to a healthcare attorney, just to make sure that they're comfortable with their individual state rules.
Okay, those are all the questions that we have right now. Is there any more questions, or do you have any more little tidbits you want to add?
I would feel like a great amount of information was covered, and thank you for the wonderful questions. They went into an amount of detail that sometimes we get asked and sometimes no. So there's literally people on the call that think a lot about the health of practice and the logistics of things. I appreciate the methodology and to the questions.
And the only thing I would add to that is, in addition to our contact information that's here on the screen, you can certainly reach out to us anytime. We will also be, as we have in the last 7 years, we'll also be attending the 2020 meeting in Denver that we're very excited about. We'll have a booth there. So obviously we're there to answer any questions. We can show demos. And beyond that, everyone, we do have client partners of ours who are current ADAM members who would also serve as references. So if you would like a reference sheet that consists of ADAM members and non-ADAM members, we're happy to share some of our clientele with you, and they can certainly give you their thoughts, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay, that sounds great. We don't seem to have any further questions. So with that, we thank you all for attending, and thank you, Bill and Tony, for presenting. And if anyone wants to review this webinar at a later date, it will be posted on the ADAM website probably within a couple of weeks. We'll look for a follow-up email as well from us later today. And again, thank you for attending. Have a great day.